Welcome to the fine print, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey, coming at you surprisingly with another great guest today. Uh, cool. And I'm going to do the usuals off the top. Thank some of my previous guests, Nancy Wallace down in Oklahoma from Nancy Zone. Pleasure having Nancy on the show. My man, Rob Scure, who just dropped his new album, Water, the other day. If you guys haven't checked out Rob's music, great kid. I really encourage y'all to check out what Rob's been up to. That logo doesn't show up super well, but Charles McGowan from Sambo Creek Filtration, Joseph Calderon from Grateful Valley Farm and the Cannabis Farmers Alliance in New York, Chris Ferrone, the Talking Joints Memo. If you didn't check out that interview, he's another big hip-hop guy, and that's what we're getting into tonight. Paula Collins from the law office of Paula Collins, Summer Westerberg from the Kairos Insurance Group, Mark Sheldone, who I'm going to meet here soon. That's going to be a fun time. And just a couple of things I got coming up. On Thursday, I got Stephen Houghton, who's a friend of Joseph Calderon, I believe, over in New York, another hemp guy over there. I think that's going to be a fantastic interview. And then Friday, I got Nate Renmus. If you haven't checked out his music too, that's going to be another eye-opener for y'all. And then Sunday, we've got another PhD scientist, Carl Craig, coming on the show. And Tuesday, Brad Racino coming back from New York Cannabis Insider. So stick around. Got lots of good stuff coming up for you. And tonight, we've got another great artist spotlight. I really have enjoyed connecting with the people in the hip-hop community here and checking out some of these. Also does some fantastic artwork, as you can see right here. That's just a super gnarly fucking mural right there. And yeah, without further ado, my guest tonight is Boxguts. Box, what up?
What up? What up?
Yo, cool. Hey, before we do anything serious, will you give us a 5-minute life story?
Yeah, sure. All right. So
can you turn your volume? Oh, here we go. There we go. That's my volume. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yep. How do I sound? Decent?
Yeah, you sound okay. I just had the volume down. That was my fuck up there.
All right, 5 minutes. Let's see where we at.
Yeah, word up. Go ahead.
Make it actually sit in that 5-minute slot. I was born in Detroit in 1982. My family moved to Pittsburg a year later, and then a year later from there we moved to Minneapolis, and then we moved to Atlanta. And after Atlanta, I moved to Orlando. I got into art, music in Minnesota, but in Atlanta, my, focus really, attention got super narrowed in on music and art, and hip hop came into play for me in Atlanta. And then in Orlando, I started my high school in Atlanta and finished in Orlando. And then I went to college in Sarasota, Florida to study illustration. And then I moved to Brooklyn in 2004, where I lived until November 2019. And then I moved to Vermont, and I've been in Ferrisburg, Vermont for the last 4 years here. And my life story, man, has just been a lot of things you'll probably hear about. It's been heavily enveloped in art and music. I mean, in all forms, really. I tried making all kinds of music at different points, but hip hop was the one that really stuck for me. And with art, I was always into drawing, and then got really into graffiti pretty young, and then learned traditional arts and learned to kind of merge the two, and still do graffiti traditionally as it is. But I work on canvases and murals of all sorts with brush and things of that nature, non-graffiti, but just traditional, untraditional, wild style kind of art. But yeah, man, that's my story, is really just me living. Now I'm here, father. And man, not only did I make it under these 5 minutes, I don't know much more to spray about myself other than what you and I will probably talk about. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, that was about 3.5, I think. And here, I'm gonna box. You're gonna go in the big box.
Okay, nice.
Word up. There we go. I'm just gonna, throughout this show, I'm just gonna shamelessly like slap some of your artwork up
Oh,
here because I've been
nice.
really taking this style, man. Will you give us a quick blurb about this piece here?
Sure, yeah. This one I did for a guy. He represented me. He had a gallery called Boy, and they started. I met the dude in New York. Really cool guy, an amazing artist named Eric Alton, and he and his wife had started this gallery in Winter Park, Florida. But as I said, I met him in New York, and he used to go to a store where I was working at in Manhattan, and I gave him a flyer to a show I had coming up. Some art was going to be there. He ended up coming and he bought a piece, and he said, "Hey man, someday I want to open a gallery and I'd like to represent you." And I was like, "All right, cool." I kind of take these things with a grain of salt. I was working hard out there and trying to hustle and out here all sorts of things that you never hear back from people or whatever. But this dude hit me up a few years later. He's like, "I got that gallery." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, it's in Florida. You should come to the opening and count what we're doing." And he ended up representing me for several years. He moved back to Florida. Back to New York. He lived in Brooklyn and reopened the gallery in Manhattan where I was represented there. And while I was being represented, he said, "Can you do?" He had a commission idea that for a painting that he wanted in his kid's room, and he really liked these kind of like weird contraption-y, almost like mech things that I was painting, and he liked the cartoonish style characters that I was doing for Cartoon Network not too long before I had done that piece. So he was like, "Can you kind of like merge those styles and see what you can come up with?" So that was that one. Yeah, it's a big piece, man. It was like maybe like 2.5 by 3.5 feet, something like that. Mixed media, mostly acrylic.
Did you say you were working with the Cartoon Network?
I did, yeah. I had a cool job with them for a little while, man. It was really dope. I got commissioned to paint. I want to say it was 15 pieces. It may have been less, but they were using them for spot advertisements. So for like commercials, they'd put one of the paintings up on the screen and then like bump a Mad Lib beat or something like that. And it'd be like Scooby-Doo at 9, So I was using their traditional characters, but doing them in my own style. And they basically just gave me a list of characters they wanted, like Huckleberry Hound, Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, and down to like their stuff, like Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that. And it was really dope, man, because they said don't from their iconic imagery too much, you know what I mean? Like, don't like give like a big crazy nose to one of the characters or like make them look too evil, but like I could make them still look trippy. So if you ever get a chance to peep those, like, I think you might dig some of them.
I'd love to see that. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. Yo, so also I wanted to ask you, just because it sounded like you've moved around quite a lot in your life, in a lot of cities. How's that been growing up, like in those kind of environments? Because I'm a little Vermont boy from the woods here, and but I'd be curious to know how that sort of has impacted your work and your life in general.
Yeah, I mean, moving around in general probably just made me more. I can get in the zone easier. I think because of moving, you have so many times where you have no friends, and it's just like, for me, it's me and my sister, my mom and dad, and then I go off to my own little corner and start doing my thing, or it's just kind of getting deeper into your own thing on your own time. That I learned a lot from moving and then being new. So like having to adjust to meeting a lot of people. I think I'm a little bit introverted naturally, but I always put myself in situations to challenge that. So I don't consider myself to be, but moving really helped that. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, all right, fuck it, just you got to go out and meet people, man.
I'm also introverted, which people would not expect. But I also like to go out and socialize and just meet people. I'm a very extroverted introvert, I think.
Yeah, I feel that from you for sure.
Word up. So, I want to ask you about your roots in the hip hop game. I got a bunch of notes here, and you got a ton of fucking music online. By the way, you make it hard to do homework. But so the first question I like to ask everybody, which is kind of a cheesy question, is, who were some of your influences? And by the way, I do want to give a shout out to Forbins. I'm smoking some Forbins herb, and that is just killer. That's it. But yeah, tell us about your influences growing up. I bet we have some overlaps here.
Yeah. So I mean, I really liked metal when I was younger. And first it was just the imagery. I mean, straight up, when I was probably 8 years old and I was seeing these Iron Maiden covers and Death and even Metallica covers, Pusshead's art, I was like, whoa, this is sick. I would make myself like the music. You know what I mean? So then I was catching that like aggressive energy from it, and something was resonating there. I wanted to play drums bad, no good. Didn't have that touch. I wanted to play the guitar. I didn't have that touch. And then for me, like with hip hop, when hip hop started to really come into play, I was already aware of its presence, but someone had given me a Wu-Tang tape when Wu-Tang was first coming out, man. And that was it, man. That just, and then I dove in from there, and it kind of even led to me starting to rhyme, because I was playing these tapes all the time on road trips with my pops. He would drive, I was on a traveling ice hockey team. So we would drive from Atlanta to like Nashville, Tennessee or something. And he'd be like, yeah, put one of your tapes in. And I put the rap on, and he would start, rapping over them, like freestyling, trying to make me laugh. And he's funny. My dad had like a natural knack for words, and he could rhyme, you know what I mean? So I was like, my dad could do this, So I would like kind of like follow up of something if I could. It's like the rhyme game, you know what I mean? If he said something, I could think of something, and I kind of realized like, oh wait, shit, I've got something here, and then just got into freestyling, and then boom, it was kind of like lock in from there. Everything sort of naturally progressed. I didn't actually imagine I'd make music when I first started rhyming. It took a while. I was just freestyling, and then some kids in my class, it was like a math class, who were pretty known to be MCs, were passing around paper. I started writing something, and I remember one of my homies felt like burned, by my verse, and he didn't like that. I like that. I was like, I like that. So I just kept going home and writing more shit. I was like, yeah.
Word up. I'm here with Boxguts, another shameless slap with some of your work.
Oh,
you got a little bit of a savage in you, I think.
Yes.
Word up. And I wanted to ask you, because here in the notes in your bio, it said in 2000 you formed a Florida-based rap group called Box Reb. I thought maybe we could take it from there and keep going.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good spot to start, man. That's where I got my name Boxguts from, is the crew Box Reb. We're called Boxer Rebellion, so it was Box Reb for short. And it was because there's another band in England, there's something called Boxer Rebellion. They weren't hip hop, but they had already been established, and we were like, well, whatever, hip hop shit, Box Reb, And I started that with a homie named Bert Diesel, who could rhyme and make beats. And I met him on my first day of college. It was like a natural orbiting towards each other. And it was like, you rap? And he was like, yeah. And it's like he did graffiti too. I mean, it was like perfect the way he and I linked up. And I mean, I think we probably started kicking rhymes to each other the first day or within the first week. And then we're like, we should do something. And it started with just us, to then him, who goes by Red Ox, who's a really dope producer and MC also. And then we met a cat who moved from Japan, who goes by Hawk One, and also MC and amazing illustrator. Look him up sometime, Bagger 43. This guy's, he was for Echo. He's done tons of work you've already probably seen, but that's a close homie. He's part of Box Reb. We're all still a group, but I've become kind of the most active solo member of the group.
Cool. And so tell us about like your first album here, because it says like, you know, maybe 4 years later you moved to Brooklyn and your first album was 2009, Mutilator. And then we'll dive into the ridiculous amount of other music that you have on here.
So yeah, as you can see that gap, man, from starting to rhyme in probably like 96, 97, writing my first rhyme probably around 98, and then getting into the art of just being an MC and really like developing my sound before I could link with the right producer. That match made was just amazing how that happened, because I was already recording a solo album and I had a whole first album with different producers, and it all got jacked. The guy who I was recording that album with said, "Hey man, can you take this off the computer? I got dump it. This thing's gonna be trash soon." So I grabbed all the sessions, I grabbed all the backups, had them on CD, had them in a bag, along with a bunch of sketchbooks and stuff that was like just personal, important to me. And I left them in a girl that I was seeing at the time car, and I like at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, Broadway, New York City. We just stopped to go and get like some kind of little cinnamon bun or something, and then came back to the car. Window was smashed. The only thing missing was my bag. And man, I was pissed. I mean, stocking blocks with a brick and a tire iron pissed. And I'm so glad it happened, because, you know, that would have been my first release of things to the world. And it things happen for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, Mutilator was the first official album I got to put out. That was in 2009 with Will Taubin. And we linked in probably 2006 and worked on that album for about 2 or 3 years before we put it out. And it was a really dope time for he and I. We both were introduced by a mutual homie, MC named Low Deck. And Deck felt like we just click up, and we did, man. And it was like the perfect scenario, because he was hungry to find an MC that would fit his beats, and I was hungry to find like one producer that I could lock in with, that I was like super in the shit that they were doing. And his work already, it was like the work was done. It just moved my pen. You know what I mean? It was just, I just got super into that project. And yeah, man, that'll always be a strong staple there.
Yeah, and you know, that was another question I was going to ask is, you know, as an MC, how do you find the right producer, or, you know, go about finding someone that makes beats that you will fuck with?
Yeah, I mean, shit, for me, I just have fucked with so many different producers, and I would first hunt down ones that I like their shit a lot, you know. And I think that makes sense for everybody in their first kind of like when they're first starting to approach rhyming or whatever. You know, you're seeking out who you want to work with. And then I would start running into situations where I would feel like I'm into it, but they're just giving me the beat. And I didn't like that process as much. So I started to kind of find that maybe it was just magnetizing more people that were more energetic about what I did the more I put stuff out. So I was, like I said, really just like blessed with meeting Will for that first album. And then from there, we kind of got locked in with the crew, Johnny23, and then our access, or my access, because he was a producer, so he's always just been on the beats with Taubin. But for me, my access to producers after putting out that first album became a lot more abundant, because they were hitting me up for the sound that we already made. So that also got weird too, because then you hear like people kind of trying to give me shit that sounded similar, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to spit on. You know, we did that already. You know, don't make me shit, you know.
Word up. Yo, I want to just hey, I'm here with Box Guts, another shameless slap for some of your artwork. This one I really love here, dude. This is yeah. Would you give us like a minute and tell us about that piece, please?
It's called Ecto Lava. I did that one. That was oil on canvas. That one, I sold that painting. I did it as a series. So there's 4 different pieces in the series. One is all kind of like, they're all based off of sort of like separate geometric shapes and then primary colors. So that was like my red piece, more on the rectangular, boxy type lava-y shit. And then I did one that's all like swirling plants, like overlapping and swirled out and like weaving into each other. That one's called Chlorophyll. And then I did another one called Ice Cave, and it's all like blue triangles making like almost weird, you can't really tell if you're going into it or coming out of it piece. And then the final piece was a square, and it was like almost like a sun coming yellow out from the center, turning into the red style that I used on that piece, coming out from one direction, and then the swirly stuff from Chlorophyll coming out from another direction, and then the triangular stuff from Ice Cave coming from another direction. They're all kind of like converging.
Beautiful stuff here, Box. Yeah. So I want to dig in a little more because, you know, okay, we talked about the debut album, but, you know, and I want to do a shameless slap here. I'm going to put up your Bandcamp. There we go.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked out, it's boxguts.bandcamp.com. There's just a ton of fucking music up here. This is just I don't know, you're a prolific motherfucker, it seems like.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell me about some of the people you've collabed with here, because I've got a list of them, and you got some like cool names, like, you know, Cool Keith, Thurston Howell the Third, who I'm a big fan of. I'd love to hear about some of those folks. It's .x, Tame One, Fast Air.
Yeah, so these are all like MCs that I just love their stuff, man. And the Cool Keith one happened. That was dope, man. The producer that I was working with on that project, Bref Boy, he said on a previous project we were working with, he's like, I can get Cool Keith on this project, but it was like this thing that I was doing where it was like mostly freestyle tracks, you know, like not much script, and it was 2 characters that were like battling each other out. So it would make sense for some Cool Keith, because we were on our 2nd volume, and people that compared the first one are like, oh, that's kind of like Cool Keithy or whatever. And I'm like, all right. You know, I take that, he's ill, whatever, but we weren't trying to make it like that. But I just felt like, man, like these are like funny projects. Like I want to put them on something serious. So when we were starting to put Hot Bref Boy 8 together, he was like, how about that Cool Keith feature? I was like, let's do it, man. Let's do it. So we hit him up, man. He was quick. Dude banged it out right away. He was like very cool on the communication, shared the joint and everything. Everything was really dope with that, you know, because I'm not too familiar with him. You know, I met him once, but I've always been a big fan of his music, and know some folk that see him on the regular and fuck with him, you know what I mean? So that was a big one for me. The next collab, what was it? Okay, so Tame One, that one was another one, man. Super dope, man. I lost my first opportunity to collab with them because I was like being cheap and stuff like that. Someone had just invited me onto this song because it was for their album, and knew that I always had felt like, man, you know, I should have done that joint back then or whatever. So that's me, Low Deck, whose songs, Jack Progresso, Tame One, and Burnt MD from Vermont. And yeah, man, that was dope because we did that originally on my homie Will Taubman's beat, who produced Mutilator. And then we got another remix from this freak who was part of Johnny23. So we like kept a lot of stuff in fam with that one.
And I'm a big fan of Tame One. The artifacts and old shit, the Brick City Kids. Yep.
Yeah, me too, man. Tame, rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
So glad I got to do that joint, man. And did a show. I know one for sure. That was dope. Him and my boy were tagging around. That was dope to see. He was like, he's like, you got a marker? Then my boy was tagging. He was like, oh, boom squad. And my boy was like, oh, he was hyped. You know what I mean? He was like, yeah.
And we got some extended collab credits I want to ask you about too. One of the names that stood out was Sean Price.
Oh, okay. So I have not collaborated with Sean Price. I've collabed with Rockness Monster, but I have done shows with Boot Camp where Helter Skelter ripped it, of course. And yeah, man. I mean, that's it. There was a really dope show called Brooklyn Barbarians. They had so many people there. J. Rue the Damager was there. I believe Thurston Howell and the Lowlives were at that one as well. Science of the Life. My whole crew, Johnny23, was at that one. And it was a company called Methods that put that show on. And they were putting a lot of dope shows together around that time.
I'm here with Boxguts. I got another shameless slap for some of your artwork here. Coney Island. Would you tell us? Will you tell us about that piece for a minute?
Yeah, man. Another one. I got to shout out my boy Will Talbot, man. One day he showed up on a bike to my crib. He was like, yo, he was like, check this shit out. He dumps a book bag and it had all these platform signs. I don't know if I should be saying that, but he had mad signs. He had mad signs from the train stops. And he was like, you should paint on these, bro. And I was like, word? I was like, hell yeah. And he was like, do one for me. You could have the whole stack. I was like, that, man. So I did a piece for him. And then I did a series of 4. That was one of the series of 4. And my homie Lenny copped the originals. They were in a gallery. And that's just dope because it stayed in the family. And Lenny and I worked together for mad years. That's my homie Low Deck's cousin.
Word up. I got one more there. Oh, I think my internet's lagging a little. Here. There we go. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty gnarly right there. Looks like a bear.
Oh, man. Yeah, that painting's right behind me over here.
Oh, you got, yeah, cool.
Let's see if I
show some of your, oh, you got that shit on the wall.
Let me see if I can put this in.
Wow. Beautiful.
Trying to finagle how I can get it.
Yeah, wow. That's killer. Box. Yeah.
Bubbling, boiling face down at the bottom there.
Wow.
A lot of mushies on that one. That was a fun ride. Like trying to get back to the same dimensions, the same. Because I didn't knock that one out in one sitting. You know what I mean?
I think we're gonna be good friends here.
Word up.
I wanted to ask you too. You mentioned maybe you was also a cultivator of some ganjas. I was curious if we could hear about that a little.
Oh, let me break out a few of my little.
Fuck yeah.
So this year, I feel like was one of my better years on the quality, man. And I give that up, man, to just so many people growing out here and just trying to learn things from everybody. I got neighbors around that grow and stuff. I've been doing it for years. But this year I did Blue OG, but it got infected by something previously I think was maybe 3 skunks.
Oh.
And
that's a nice looking stick there, Box.
Yeah, man.
Fuck yeah.
Then I got three skunks. Turned out great, man. It's got a weird, like, kind of sweet taste to it. I had a couple of these that came out a little different, so I think one may have crossed a little as well. Yeah, these guys.
Yeah.
And I did Don Juan, and that crossed also a little bit with the 3 skunks from the previous year. But man, this one is my gassier.
Look at those beautiful nuggets you got there, Box. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying, man, you know, but it's working for me. The whole plan was so I wouldn't have to buy. I didn't want to buy it, you know what I mean? I just
same. Yeah.
it's like
yeah, it's hard. Weed's expensive. It adds.
Yes.
What kind of can I ask you about your cultivation techniques? Like, what are you growing in? What's your medium?
So I start indoors, and I usually go straight from seed. Man, I started with like bag seeds and like people bringing me stuff, neighbors bringing me stuff, and having to learn and like trying crazy training and stuff. So I start indoors, right? And then I get her a little good enough to go outside, and then I do the rest outdoors. And man, I give it up to the yard, because it's like maple trees all in the yard, and I feel like it's got something to do with how fucking sweet and dank they get. But yeah, I just kind of I'm always learning as I go.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you're smoking on tonight? Is some of your own herb?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All day.
Okay. I hope I could try that sometime.
Oh
That'd
man,
be nice.
I got you. You know, the funniest thing is I remember when I first met you. You were at Green Door, and you had mentioned something about some bad swag someone gave you, right? And I was like, it was like a year ago, and I was like, damn, I know we don't know each other, but I should never give you any pot, because I don't feel.
No, but you know, you should though. I'd like to try.
No,
those look like some beautiful flowers, and you know, yeah, we can talk about that other shit later, because I remember exactly who I was talking about. But,
right on. But yeah,
he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He just grows shitty weed. It's okay. Yo, so Box, I'm getting towards the end of my shit. I'd like to open up the floor to you here. Like, if we missed anything, or if there's any shameless plugs or shout outs you want to give, or shows that you might have coming up. I see you've been performing a lot at the rap night. I see you around at the Green Door Studio. It's always nice to run into you. That was cool.
Likewise.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna leave this to you now, and yeah, I'm about out of questions.
Well, Thursday I got a show, or I'm gonna go jump on a show in Rutland at Angler Pub, and that's from I think 8 to midnight, and I'll probably be doing something around the 10:30 end of things. Then I'll be doing rap night the fourth Friday of February and March, and then doing third Thursday at Green Door in February. And I think, let's see what else I got. February, I got a bit of things, man. Let's see. So February also training ground, Morrisville. I'll be out there.
Oh, that's where I live.
Yeah, Oasis. I'll be there. Get that.
Oh,
yeah, I'll hook
that's
you up.
2 blocks. That's 2 blocks from my house.
Awesome shit, man. Come through, man. That's like I think 8 p.m. West Side. I'll be doing something around the 10:30 into things too.
Excellent.
But yeah, I'm gonna pack something crazy for that one. And yeah, March I'm doing something in New Hampshire. That's March 23rd. So anyways, I got these things, and then I'm finishing up an album, a Hot Bref Boy Volume 9, and I'm just listening to my son like twisting the door. He's like, he's probably trying to get to some of the toys and stuff in here. But I've been working with. So while I was putting this Hot Bref Boy, real quick, man, Hot Bref Boy is this tapes that I've been doing throughout the years, where I take like joints that I've just done randomly with producers that maybe I do like 1 or 2 with somebody, and like we don't do a full album. So like put them in it, or collabs and stuff like that. And it'll be 23 songs long. So it's more like an album, but I make them kind of like it's a mixtape because it's all like going bonkers. You know what I mean? But I will sometimes give it a theme. Like it's usually something about smoking weed, you know, like Hot Bref Boy Volume 3 was I Just Steamed All Your Diesel. And Hot Bref Boy Volume 6 was called Smoke Machine. So they all have kind of like different things of that nature. But Hot Bref Boy Volume 9, while I was putting together, I found these 4 songs that I had done around 2020 with the producer called Seventh Galaxy from Toronto. And he and I had worked before, and I kind of like forgot we had these songs on the stash. And I hit him up to tell him, yo, I'm going to put these on there. And he's like, we got 4 songs. Let's just like finish the EP. And he had 2 beats and they're sitting in the chamber. I was like, are these still a go? Because they're from 4 years ago. And he's like, yeah, do whatever you want. And I just jammed on them that night, you know? So we got 6 songs for EP in the chamber. That'll probably be the next thing to go. And I'm thinking that's going to be called Global Scalding, Boxguts, and Seventh Galaxy. And shout outs to everybody in Vermont that I've been fucking with, man. Shout out to Nasty for everything with Rap Night, man. He's been putting it on. Yo, shout out to people that you've had on that I'm also familiar with that are homies as well, like DJ Kanga. Shout out to Scotty. Shout out to Will C. Shout out to Mav. Shout out to Humble, man. Shout out to Trav.
Humble's a great guy. Every time I see that motherfucker, we have some great conversations.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Wes. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Matt, man. It's like just for days, man. But really Vermont, you know. Shout out to Jeffrey. Yeah, and then my crews. Big ups Box Reb, Johnny23, Bag, everybody. And you. Thank you for having me on, man.
It's been a pleasure, you know, and I wish you the best of luck up here. And I've really been digging your music. I'm want to just before we get out of here, I am gonna shamelessly just slap a bunch of your artwork across the screen. And this one I really love. That's awesome. Just right there. Yeah, we got a lot of great art here. It's Boxguts, man. This mural is killer. And this, whatever the fuck he did there, man, that really got me. And I think this is, oh, there we go. That's a longer angle of that same shit. Yo, so I'm gonna get out of here. Do you have any final notes? Did we cover everything? Because I'm gonna pack it up. But if you got any last words, now's the time. Boxguts, thank you for joining me. And yep, really been enjoying your music, man. I listened to 2 hours of it before this interview.
Hey, everybody else do the same. If you haven't, run over to boxguts.bandcamp.com if you're looking for something like a full project of mine to check. I always tell everybody, like, the last full album was Royal Water, and then I've got a few things that came after that. So just keep your ears peeled. And yeah, I got boxguts.com.
Yeah, little slap for your website there.
Good luck. Yep. Be fleshing that out and bringing that into more of the forefront this year. And you can find me Boxguts on all platforms. You can find me out here whenever you see Boxguts performing. Come watch me rock. Come say what's up.
Word up. I'm gonna sign it off. Boxguts, thank you for joining me. I'm your host Caleb Teskey, and the devil's in the details, and the details are in the fine print. Peace.